Tonight on World News, target Libya. Colonel Gaddafi defiant tonight, saying, "We're staying." Even as U.S. and allied bombs pound Libya. Tonight, that no-fly zone in place. What comes next? Will Gaddafi himself become a target? President Obama in a makeshift situation room traveling in Brazil. While in Libya, Gaddafi's army continues to attack the rebels. And Gaddafi's son speaking to ABC's Christiane Amanpour, a worldwide exclusive. His words for President Obama tonight. While inside Tripoli, women and children used as human shields. And we ask, how long will this last? And disaster in the Pacific. The stunning stories of survival emerging tonight. A grandmother and a teenager both pulled out alive 9 days after the earthquake. Japan and Libya. World News team coverage straight ahead.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News with David Muir.
And good evening. As we go on the air tonight, there is breaking news from Libya. Word that the bombing of Libya by U.S. and allied forces has now struck Muammar Gaddafi's compound. There are multiple reports that a building in the complex has now been completely destroyed. No word on any injuries. This after the Pentagon said that the Libyan leader himself was not a target of the military assault, now in its second night. The U.S. is stressing that this is an international effort. But look at this number tonight. 124 Tomahawk missiles have been fired into Libya so far, all but 2 of them launched by the U.S. We tackle 3 major questions here. How long will this operation last? How long will the U.S. play a leading role? Despite what we heard from the Pentagon, will Gaddafi himself at some point become the target? And just who are the rebels the U.S. is now backing? Our team on it again tonight, leading us off, Martha Raddatz in Washington. Martha, good evening. What's the latest?
Good evening, David. U.S. military attacks on Libya have only intensified in the last 24 hours, targeting not just Gaddafi's air defenses, but his troops and warplanes as well.
Throughout the night and into the dawn, U.S. warplanes, including Marine Corps Harrier jets launched from U.S. ships in the Mediterranean, and Air Force fighter jets took aim at Gaddafi's troops advancing from the southwest to Benghazi, the rebel stronghold the Libyan leader has vowed to take back.
Benghazi is not completely safe from attack, but it is certainly under less threat than it was yesterday. We believe his forces are under significant stress and suffering from both isolation and a good deal of confusion.
While fighter jets were pounding Gaddafi's forces in the east, 3 B-2 stealth bombers dropped 45 2,000-pound bombs on a military airfield near Misrata, striking multiple shelters housing Gaddafi's warplanes. These are images before the strike. This is the aftermath. The B-2s, which have not been used in combat for 8 years, traveled all the way from Missouri, refueled in the air, dropped their bombs, 90,000 pounds of them in all, and returned to the U.S. In addition, another dozen or so Tomahawk missiles were fired from ships in the Mediterranean, meaning more than 120 have now been launched.
We now have the capability to patrol the airspace over Libya, and we are doing just that, shifting to a more consistent and persistent air presence. The no-fly zone is effectively in place.
But threats do remain. Tonight, the crack of anti-aircraft fire could be heard ripping through Tripoli. The Pentagon believes, however, that within a matter of days, hundreds of U.S. and allied fighters will be patrolling Libya. But the big question remains, how long will it last? Joint Chiefs Chairman Mike Mullen spoke with ABC's Christiane Amanpour on This Week.
So it's possible that we could have, like Iraq, a 12-year no-fly zone with the strongman still in place.
I wouldn't speculate in terms of length at this particular point in time.
And Martha, you and I both know that the White House has stressed here that this would not be a long effort, but that did not make it sound like this would end quickly.
It sure didn't, David. I think the only thing we know for sure is that the U.S. is going to hand over command to the Europeans or another ally within the next few days or maybe few weeks. But beyond that, we don't know.
And if the Pentagon says it's not going after Gaddafi right now, is there a scenario where he stays in some fashion?
Well, you know, Admiral Mullen said today that it is possible that Gaddafi could remain in power and it could be mission accomplished, but the only way that would happen is for him to really truly honor the ceasefire and all those other demands in the UN resolution, and frankly, not many people expect that to happen. So for now, if Gaddafi does not back down, this truly seems like an open-ended commitment to a no-fly zone, David.
All right, Martha Raddatz starting us off tonight. Martha, thank you. And as we all heard Martha report there, the bombings have taken out fixed targets, those anti-aircraft batteries. So the question now, what's next? I spoke to retired Colonel Stephen Ganyard, a former Marine pilot who was enforced no-fly zones. We talked just moments ago. Colonel Ganyard, good to have you with us again tonight. You've got the map there beside you. Show us where coalition forces have already hit.
David, the red dots on the map indicate the fixed surface-to-air missile sites that have been the focus of efforts by cruise missile attacks in the past 24 hours.
And you were telling me the next major challenge are the Libyan mobile units?
The mobile units are going to be very difficult. By their very nature, they move around the country. They're small. You see here a Soviet SA-6 missile. We do have airplanes that are specifically designed to go after these mobile targets, but it's going to take our crews a couple days to find them, to fix them, and to take them out of action.
And Colonel, I'm so curious. I heard the Pentagon earlier saying that Colonel Gaddafi himself is not a target. But in your experience, when does that change? When does the vice get so tight that the leader himself becomes the target?
I think it'll be very interesting to watch the rebels in the next couple days to see if they're able to take advantage of this umbrella of air cover that's been created overhead. If not, if there's a stagnation and there's no rekindling of this rebellion, I think that you're going to see coalition air power applied directly to Colonel Gaddafi himself.
All right, retired Colonel Stephen Ganyard tonight, thanks very much. And we heard Colonel Gaddafi in a phone call to Libyan television today, making it clear he's not going anywhere, digging in for a, quote, long war.
You are not capable of a prolonged war in Libya. We consider ourselves ready for a long war. Be aware of that. We're not retrieving anywhere because this is our land. This is where we're staying. Then you're going to return defeated.
Colonel Gaddafi, in his own words, and tonight striking images of women and children in Tripoli being used as human shields. They said they volunteered to put their lives on the line in support of Gaddafi. And so we turn now to the BBC's Alan Little, who is in Tripoli tonight. Alan, good evening.
Good evening, David. Tonight in Tripoli, the sky lit up for a second night with anti-aircraft fire, and it feels as though the city is under attack. In fact, that's misleading. Tripoli itself was not under attack. Those guns were responding to missiles or fighter planes, bomber planes heading for targets outside the periphery of the city. What those targets are, we simply don't know. The mood here has hardened. People died last night. State television showed bodies in the morgue. They showed wounded in hospital beds. But think how last night's airstrikes have tipped the military balance. If the rebels in the east, in what amounts to now a safe haven, can get themselves a military capability that they can use with discipline, and if Colonel Gaddafi's ability to operate militarily is constrained by airstrikes, he could become very vulnerable very soon, even in the areas that we think of as his heartland. David.
Alan Little again with us from Tripoli. Alan, thank you. And you heard Colonel Gaddafi there calling into Libyan TV. Tonight, his son and closest advisor, Saif Gaddafi, has talked with ABC's Christiane Amanpour. It's an ABC News Worldwide exclusive. Saif Gaddafi is also in Tripoli, and we begin here with his reaction to the offensive.
We were surprised that, the Americans and the British and the French attacked Libya, attacked 5 cities, terrorized people, and especially children, women were so afraid. President Obama, we thought he's a good man and a friend of the Arab world, is bombing Libya.
Will Colonel Gaddafi step down? Will he step aside?
Step aside, why? I mean, to step... Again, there's a big misunderstanding. The whole country is united against the armed militia and the terrorists. The Americans and the other Western countries, you are supporting the terrorists and the armed militia. That's it.
Saif Gaddafi tonight in an ABC News exclusive. So has the offensive changed the picture on the ground in eastern Libya for the rebels? Tonight in some places celebration, though in others, Gaddafi's army still on the attack. Alex Marquardt is in eastern Libya tonight.
Good evening, David. These rebels that were on the cusp of defeat say this long-awaited international military intervention provides a huge morale boost, that these coalition airstrikes change the momentum of this revolution. But these rebels are still an under-equipped, under-trained force fighting a ruthless enemy. Gaddafi's ammunition supplies, used against the rebels, today destroyed near Benghazi. The burned-out carcasses of a Gaddafi forces convoy, apparently taken out by U.S. and European bombs on the edge of the rebel capital. The rebels celebrated.
It's over.
In fact, it's far from over. In the west, the rebel-held city of Misrata continues to be attacked by Gaddafi forces.
They are destroying everything here. Everything. Nobody saved.
But in the east, there's a palpable change in the atmosphere.
I think it's a tremendous boost to Libyan people, to the fighters in particular.
The fighters desperately need the boost. They're led by a former Special Forces general who defected from Gaddafi's government. But the vast majority are civilians, sent to fight with very little training and outdated weapons. But what they lack in experience, they say they make up for with heart.
We die or we win. We have no other choice. We die or we win.
The rebels say that the coalition airstrikes make the fight with Gaddafi forces more fair, that now it's gun against gun versus gun against fighter jet. And as happy as they are, many of the rebels are calling for the coalition to arm them with better weapons. It remains to be seen if the coalition wants to get that involved. David?
Alex, our thanks to you. And as you know, President Obama is in Brazil, a previously scheduled trip focusing on the economy. Of course, that focus shifted quickly, and he found himself in what appeared to be a makeshift war room there. David Curley is traveling with the president tonight. David, good evening.
David, President Obama interrupted his trip to Brazil several times today to be briefed on the situation in Libya. And for the first time, a peek inside the secure tent that is set up on these foreign trips so that the president can speak on secure lines to his national security team. As American forces pounded Libyan targets, the president defended his actions in a speech to the Brazilian people, framing it as part of a battle for universal rights.
We've seen the people of Libya take a courageous stand against a regime determined to brutalize its own citizens. Across the region, we've seen young people rise up, a new generation demanding the right to determine their own future.
The president, acknowledging that the end game in the greater Middle East is far from determined, told the audience that no one can say how this change in the Middle East will end. David?
David Curley traveling with the president tonight. David, thank you. And as we cover Libya, we note that there is turmoil throughout the Middle East tonight. In Bahrain, home to the U.S. Fifth Fleet, just one of the funerals today here in the fight against that country's autocratic leader. But unlike the rebels in Libya, these rebels aren't getting support from the outside world. In fact, Saudi Arabia has sent in troops to support the regime. In Yemen, meanwhile, another important U.S. ally, for the first time today, we saw political leaders joining the protesters in the streets. Yemen's government launched a bloody crackdown against the uprising this weekend. There are reports 100 people have been killed. And in Egypt tonight, one of the first dominoes to fall in the region, there were celebrations today as they went to the polls this weekend. It's the first election since they overthrew President Mubarak. It was a referendum on constitutional change. It will now allow for presidential elections there later this year. And still ahead here on World News this Sunday night, we turn to the disaster in the Pacific. And from Japan this evening, a giant miracle. A grandmother and her grandson pulled out alive 9 days after the quake. And in this country tonight, the deadly string of bus accidents, and just in here, the eye-opening findings after some surprise inspections this weekend. And later tonight, the one sports highlight you cannot miss before starting the week ahead, the athlete in the match of his life.
This is ABC World News with David Muir, brought to you by AstraZeneca, the makers of Nexium.
Desperate for nighttime heartburn relief? For many, Nexium helps relieve heartburn symptoms caused by acid reflux disease. Talk to your doctor about your risk for osteoporosis-related bone fractures if you take multiple daily doses of Nexium for a long time. Possible side effects include headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. Other serious stomach conditions may still exist. Talk to your doctor about Nexium. If you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
Sure, you know oil and natural gas fuel transportation and comfort. Bet you didn't know oil and natural gas fuel American jobs. 9.2 million of them. Now that's fuel. for our economy. Log on to learn more.
Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance.
We take it a day at a time. That's how it is with Alzheimer's disease. She needs help from me and her medication. The Exelon patch, it releases medication continuously for 24 hours. She uses one Exelon patch daily for the treatment of mild to moderate Alzheimer's symptoms.
It cannot change the course of the disease. Hospitalization and rarely death have been reported in patients who wore more than one patch at a time. The most common side effects of Exelon patch are nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. The likelihood and severity of these side effects may increase as the dose increases. Patients may experience loss of appetite or weight. Patients who weigh less than 110 pounds may experience more side effects. People at risk for stomach ulcers who take certain other medicines should talk to their doctor because serious stomach problems such as bleeding may worsen. People with certain heart conditions may experience low heart rate.
Whenever I needed her, she was there for me. Now, I'm here for her.
Ask the doctor about your loved one trying the Exelon patch. Visit exelonpatch.com to learn more.
Think more oil means more oil wells? Well, with advanced drilling from a single location, we can now tap oil and natural gas over there, and there, and there, increasing our energy while decreasing our impact. Log on to learn more.
We're going to turn now to the disaster in the Pacific tonight in an extraordinary headline. Rescuers hearing the cries of a teenage boy coming from the rubble now 9 days into this, and his grandmother was in there with him. David Wright is in Japan tonight.
Today, Japanese search and rescue teams in the coastal town of Ishinomaki got sudden word of survivors trapped alive. Inside the debris of this 3-story house, a 16-year-old boy cries out. He tells them his grandmother is with him. 40 minutes later, they're free, weak and dehydrated, but alert and able to speak. Her name is Sumi Abe. She's 80 years old, trapped in her kitchen, eating yogurt for 9 days from the fridge that pinned her down. The rescue workers strap her into a harness and airlift her out. The country starved for good news, a morsel of hope. This is another coastal town, Rikuzen Takata, wiped off the map by the tsunami. The fire chief here saw this coming. 2 years ago, the seawall broke after another earthquake, he says. I was worried about it, and I told my bosses. The giant harbor gates designed to protect the town failed to shut. So when the earthquake struck, 45 of his men rushed here to try to shut them by hand. All of them were swept away. The fire chief now feels guilty, ashamed to be alive. He spends all his time searching for the bodies of his men. But the story consuming most people's attention here is the nuclear crisis. Officials said today that the pressure inside reactor number 3 at Fukushima is building to a critical level. They had planned to vent radioactive steam to release the pressure, but said later the situation had stabilized for now. Officials are now considering widening the evacuation zone just in case. Finally, an aspect of this story that's bound to be getting a lot of attention in the coming days. New reports surfacing that the operator of the power plant faked the safety records, pretending to do rigorous inspections, but not really doing them, in some cases for 11 years. If that's true, then that raises serious questions about who is really responsible. David?
Major questions to come on that. David Wright, thank you. And when we come back in this country, what police discovered on the highways this weekend after stopping those troubled buses.
Stay with ABC News for the latest details and complete coverage of disaster in the Pacific. And to find out how you can help the victims, go to abcnews.com/help.
We had never used a contractor before and didn't know where to start.
At Angie's List, you'll find reviews on everything from home repair to healthcare, written by people just like you.
No company can pay to be on Angie's List, so you can trust what you're reading.
Angie's List is like having thousands of close neighbors where I can go ask for personal recommendations.
That's the idea. Before you have any work done, check Angie's List.
From roofers to plumbers to dentists and more, Angie's List. Reviews you can trust.
I love you, Angie. Sorry, honey.
Everything is better with Swanson broth in it, an essential ingredient in any kitchen. Swanson 100% natural chicken broth.
Castrol Syntec has been reformulated for better performance under the hood. So we gave it a new name, Castrol Edge with Syntec Power Technology. New name, better formula. It's more than just oil, it's liquid engineering.
Have you been diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat called atrial fibrillation, or AFib? If so, now's the time to talk to your doctor again, even if you're already taking medication to reduce your stroke risk. Atrial fibrillation can cause a blood clot to form, here in your heart. It can break free and go straight to your brain, where it can cause a serious stroke. Strokes that are twice as likely to be deadly or severely disabling as other types of strokes. But if you're one of the 2 million people who have atrial fibrillation, there's never been a better time to talk to your doctor. Because you and your doctor can choose from different kinds of medicines to help prevent a stroke. For a free interactive book, call 1-877-AFib-STROKE or log on to afibstroke.com. And with this valuable information in your hand, talk to your doctor.
Ally works when you work. If you skip this latte and opt for the smaller, low-fat one, you'll cut about 12 grams of fat. Then take Ally with it to help boost your weight loss. So for every 2 pounds you work to lose, Ally can help you lose 1 more. Ally, how healthy works.
Those with frequent heartburn, imagine a day when we can eat what we want and sleep soundly through the night. Prevacid 24 Hour. Just 1 pill helps keep you heartburn free for a full 24 hours. Happiness is a day without heartburn.
We have been reporting here on World News on those deadly bus crashes, the tour buses that are often the cheapest way to shuttle between some of this country's biggest cities. Tonight, news of a surprise operation stopping some of those buses. And Lindsay Davis is here with the eye-opening results.
The inspectors stopped buses without warning. The results were startling. Out of 14 buses pulled over here in Manhattan, the number of violations, 19. In a larger statewide investigation, 36 buses were inspected. 10 drivers were not permitted back behind the wheel. The investigations follow 2 horrific accidents in recent days. 15 people died in this tour bus last Saturday in New York. Survivors say the driver had been swerving just before the crash. Days later, 2 more died in this crash in New Jersey. Discount bus lines have been expanding around the country.
And it's easy to see why. This line goes all the way around the corner. People are able to come here to Chinatown in New York and buy a one-way ticket all the way to Boston for as little as $15. By train, it would cost at least $70.
The question, do those cheap fares drive the companies to cut corners on safety?
If the past is any indication, a large number of the drivers of those buses shouldn't be driving because they have so many violations and other misdeeds on their license record.
Politicians and safety advocates alike are calling for tougher regulation. For example, seat belts are not even required for passenger seats, and the regulators, they often rely on handwritten logbooks to restrict drivers to 10 hours behind the wheel. But David, in several of the instances at the checkpoints, the logbooks were nowhere to be found.
So they had no idea how long the drivers had even been on the roads.
Exactly.
All right, Lindsay Davis, thanks tonight. When we come back here, the spectacular moment in sports not seen on any of the networks this weekend, the young champion. You have to see to believe.
Across the country, when the economy tumbled, J.P. Morgan Chase set up new offices to work one-on-one with homeowners. Since 2009, we've helped over 250,000 Americans keep their homes. And we're reaching out to small businesses, too, lending them more than $10 billion last year. We're also giving businesses the opportunity to ask for a second review if they feel their loan should have been approved. This is how recoveries happen. Everyone doing their part. This is the way forward.
A fiber that is taste-free is a welcome change. A fiber that dissolves completely is clearly different. Benefiber is the easy way to get more fiber every day. That's the beauty of Benefiber.
Castrol Syntec has been reformulated for better performance under the hood. So we gave it a new name, Castrol Edge with Syntec Power Technology. New name, better formula. It's more than just oil, it's liquid engineering.
When the food we eat has nutritional gaps, so do we. But with more key nutrients than one-a-day essential, Centrum fills those gaps better. Centrum, complete from A to zinc.
This is Lara. Her morning begins with arthritis pain. That's a coffee and 2 pills. The afternoon tour begins with more pain and more pills. The evening guests arrive, back to sore knees, back to more pills. The day is done, but hang on. Her doctor recommended Aleve. Just 2 pills can keep arthritis pain away all day with fewer pills than Tylenol. This is Lara, who chose 2 Aleve and fewer pills for a day free of pain. And get the all-day pain relief of Aleve in liquid gels.
Is your current denture cleanser missing something? Now you get a cleanser with Scope Freshness. New Fixodent plus Scope ingredients. Cleans, kills germs that cause denture odors, and provides your dentures with the freshness of Scope. New Fixodent cleanser plus Scope ingredients.
Makes me want to change lives.
So inspirational. Don't miss this show.
Truly unbelievable.
Oh my God, so good.
Incredible.
Wow, amazing. Best show on television.
America's in love with the feel-good show of the year, Secret Millionaire. All new tonight, 8/7 Central on ABC.
Target Libya. Coalition attack. Missile strikes. Gaddafi remains defiant. ABC News is right there reporting from inside Libya. Tomorrow for the latest breaking new details on Target Libya. Turn to Good Morning America and World News with Diane Sawyer on ABC.
And finally tonight here, a story of triumph. And boy, did we need one after this last week of horrible news. Here it is, a young man who faced an extraordinary hurdle, but with his mom cheering him on, he went from being her little champion to a national champion tonight.
The senior from Mesa, Arizona, is 7 minutes away from a national title.
Walking out on crutches and making his way up those stairs, he was about to face his biggest match yet. Last night in Philadelphia, before a crowd of nearly 20,000, Anthony Robles was about to make history.
It's just all about capitalizing on your strengths, and not focusing so much on your weaknesses.
Anthony was born with just one leg.
I grew up just like my brothers and my sister. My parents didn't treat me any different. I pretty much do whatever I set my mind to.
And he set his mind to wrestle. His mother, Judy, his biggest fan.
I've just loved him as my son. I never saw anything wrong with him.
In fact, Robles has found a way to overcome his disability. In fact, he has much more upper body strength than most men in his category, 125 pounds.
Falling coming from McDonough.
And from the start, Robles took command.
And the upper body strength of Robles on display.
And he would continue his domination.
Beautiful technique by Robles.
And finally, it was too much for his opponent.
Anthony Robles has shown us that impossible is nothing.
Anthony Robles had won the national championship. His biggest fan watching.
It's like a dream come true. I've literally dreamt about this a dozen times.
From Arizona State University, Anthony Robles.
And as he receives his medals, a standing ovation.
He deserved that ovation. Congratulations, Anthony. And that is World News for this Sunday night. I hope to see you all this week on Good Morning America as I fill in beside my pal, Robin Roberts. Diane Sawyer, right back here tomorrow night. Good night from all of us here at ABC News.
And the greatest movie of all time is...
America voted in 10 incredible movie categories.
Tom, the envelope, please.
So what was voted Best in Film? And what didn't make the cut?
Wow.
Best in Film, Tuesday at 9/8 Central on ABC.
In one day, 11 new stars make their move. And with a cast this unpredictable, it's anybody's game.
Are you ready? It'll have to do.
Dancing with the Stars live 2-hour premiere event tomorrow, 8/7 Central on ABC.
Next at 6, we're on Storm Track. A powerful storm slams into Southern California, knocking down trees, triggering flash floods, and bringing snow to our local mountains.
Plus, a dramatic rescue scene as a rushing river traps people atop their vehicle. See what happened next.
So what can we expect in the hours ahead? Dallas Rains is tracking it all with the live Mega Doppler 7000 HD.
Plus, breaking news as it happens.
Eyewitness News at 6 is next.
completing an ATM deposit in record time. That's a step forward. With deposit-friendly ATMs, you can make ultra-fast, secure deposits with